Hey everybody, it's Ryan. Welcome back to How Farms Work. So last night we were supposed to get anywhere between 5 to 8 inches of snow, and I would say that we got maybe 4. One of the most challenging questions that I get whenever we do get snow is how many inches of snow did we get? And my question for those asking that is, which snowdrift do I measure? Seems like all of the snow around here just seems to blow into the ditches and into the low spots. So what we're going to be doing is I've got to plow my place out so that I can get around with the truck so I can feed calves. We've got, I would say 4 inches. We've got some spots where the drifts are actually pretty deep, but nothing real bad. I could get out with the truck if I wanted, but the problem is that if you don't plow it out, the snow starts to compact and then everything just gets really, really icy. So this past weekend, in expecting a cold winter, I decided to go to Menards and I got one of these bad boys. So this is a kerosene heater. Some people call them torpedo heaters. Other people call them Nipcos, although when it comes to calling them Nipcos, I would say that that's more of a brand name than what they are. It's kind of like calling a tissue Kleenex. Both are technically right. So this is a 180,000 to 220,000 BTUs, which is its heating potential. So if we're going to turn this bad boy on, lots of people have these on farms. Now this one's got a thermostat on it. So I was really playing with the idea of turning this on, closing the shed up, and letting it run. But the problem with there is that these can produce carbon monoxide. So you don't want to close everything up just to have it fill the shed up with toxic fumes, unless you're trying to kill the birds, I guess. So this one has a switch on the back where you can turn it up to high or low. That controls your output. So if I flip that switch, it gets a little warmer. So you can see that the dye is starting to stain the output of the heater. So what I filled this with was farm diesel, and the reason being is because kerosene's expensive. I went to the store to try to buy kerosene, or look into it, I guess, and it was like 16 bucks for 2.5 gallons. And to me that was just way too expensive, because this is a 13-gallon tank. You can just about imagine how expensive it would be to keep this thing filled. So kerosene burns cleaner than diesel does, but diesel's cheap and abundant. So the reason I bought this heater is because I wanted to be able to unfreeze the tracks. I wanted to be able to keep them cleaner in the winter. Last winter we had a lot of freezing and thawing, and it filled the tracks up just with mud. And I tried as best I could to clean it out. What I did was I used the water, but in really cold days that's not really an option. But what I've been doing now is whenever I go out and feed cows, I just bring it in here, I melt all the snow off, and I immediately start brushing the tracks off, and it does keep them relatively clean. I mean, they don't look clean, but there's not a whole lot of mud up underneath there. And the colder it gets, the easier it gets to keep clean. An issue that you can have with the track machine is you can have the tracks freeze up, and this is where this thing comes into play. So last winter I had a couple instances where the tracks did freeze up. What we did was we brought a heater over and we thawed them out. So buying one of these heaters is something that I really needed to do. I knew I needed to do it, but the thing is, these things are relatively expensive. This one in particular, I wanted to buy a big enough one that had enough heat output I could use it for pretty much whatever I needed it for. And this one was 350 bucks. So it's a Dynaglow Deluxe. Go find them online. I know a lot of people were interested, whoever's looking for them, because they are really handy to have around the farm, especially if you're working in a machine shed or whatever. You just got to be careful not to close everything up, because with these heaters, I don't really like them. I have a love-hate relationship with them. Whenever we turn them on, I always just kind of get dizzy. So I don't like running them more than I absolutely have to. But in situations like this, after I'm done pushing snow around, there'll be snow up in the tracks. All I got to do is just flip it on, turn it on a little bit on each side. And the tracks were froze up here, actually the day I brought this home, but it was really easy to unthaw. I probably put it on the track I put it on the drive for a good 30 seconds, and then once that drive was freed up, it just freed everything up and it ran. So having one of these is a must, especially if you don't have a heated shop. For us, heated shop really isn't in the plans right now, but that is something that we'd really like to get in the future. It's something that I'd like to build here, but it all comes down to money. So what do you say we fire the JCB up, get that warmed, and see if the tracks are froze up. They really shouldn't be, but I like to turn the heater on just so I don't really damage the tracks at all. This is just a common feature of track machines. Glow plugs didn't turn on, so it's really not that cold out today. This unit's got just over 900 hours on it. I fell in love with this thing. So while we're waiting for that to warm up, let's talk about my truck a little bit. Got about 45,000 miles on this baby. I absolutely love it, but it is coming time to where I gotta replace the tires. So tires did pretty good. For 4 of these tires, $1,200. Rather expensive, but they tend to put the higher end tires on them, I guess, right from the factory. So I'm getting the tires changed back. I'm putting the same ones on. They lasted a long time. I was really happy with how they performed. So I could have gone cheaper, but I didn't really like the tires that are on our other trucks. So I just decided to go with these ones again. During the first snow, the roads got a little icy and I Tokyo drifted around a corner, so that really gave me the incentive to want to replace the tires on this truck. So let's go ahead and hop in the JCB and start pushing snow. So when starting up like this, I like to just kind of take things nice and slow because you never know if the tracks are froze up. And they aren't. All right, let's get started. Got a pretty healthy snowdrift there. One of my favorite features that I like to use when pushing snow with the Teleskid is float. So what float does is it frees up the cylinder on the loader arm to move up and down freely. And what that'll allow you to do is push the snow. It'll allow you to set the pitch of your bucket and just let the bucket skid along the ground. And for me, that really is nice, because as you change, as you move around and the terrain changes, it makes it a lot easier to push snow. I mean, you aren't as likely to dig into the ground as much. I was warned online that you shouldn't use float when going forward, although I don't know whether or not that's true, because what will happen is if you do end up digging into the ground, it could damage something. I'm not brave enough to try that out myself, but I was told that you always want to use float when going backwards. But I mean, for me, it seems to work really well pushing snow around, as long as I'm making the bottom of the bucket slide on the ground and I'm not digging in at all. So overall, I mean, it's just really nice for pushing snow. Make sure that you have all your traction. I found that with driving the Teleskid, with operating it, when I first started running it, I found that it didn't perform as well as I would like to in snow and ice. In ice, it still doesn't perform that well, but what I found is that if you make slower movements, since this is such a heavy unit, it's over 13,000 pounds, it's about 4,000 pounds heavier than our Bobcat, is that if you make slower movements, you're less likely to start sliding. And if you're stuck, if you just really stop making the harsh adjustments and just slowly pull back on the joystick, you can pretty much, as long as you're not stuck yet, you can pretty much always get out. So starting to learn. I mean, experience comes with time. This is the first track machine that I've ever operated, so gotta give me a break there. I'm almost done here, so I'm gonna keep pushing snow. I got a few more places to clear out, and then we're pretty well good. I'm gonna pull this back into the shed when I'm done and put the heater on the tracks to melt that snow off and clean them off, so that way they don't ice up, and I can start it tomorrow without a hitch. If I'm gonna engage float, push this button there with the loader down, that cylinder frees up, you can see it drop just a little here. And actually what I like to do first is set it all the way down and then set my pitch in the bucket. I like to leave about 1 inch of clearance, and then we're good to go. Every time I lift up the arm, float disengages, so I have to re-engage it, which is why they put it on the joystick. now that we're all nice and snowy, we got it back inside. Just pretty well packed all the way around the tracks. Now, if I were to just let that sit, you can just imagine how hard it would be to move the JCB tomorrow morning. So we're gonna go ahead and fire this bad boy up. We got it a nice distance away from the track, so it's not gonna be overheating them or anything. We're just gonna flip it on, make sure we're on high, wait for the snow to melt. I just got the snow melted that was built up in the tracks, and it really does go by faster if you used a specialized tool such as this, which I randomly found sitting in the machine shed, to reach back and dig out any ice and snow that might be built up in those troubling areas, like behind the main drive there. So another thing that some people will do is they'll put down 2x4s and they'll drive over the 2x4s. That gets the tracks up off the ground so it doesn't freeze to the ground. Especially in a situation like this, I should go find some and lay some down, because now that I melted all that snow, it's on the ground and it might melt, or it might freeze to the rubber tracks. So it's not a bad idea, but overall life is a lot better with one of these heaters. I definitely think these are a must-have if you got a track machine without a heated shop, because just it probably halved the amount of time of cleaning, because it melts any of that troubling stuff that's behind it. Last year what I had going on was I'd clean off the snow every time, especially on the colder days, but I couldn't get back and melt the stuff that was in the places where it needed to really be melted. So next time I'd go to fire it up, the tracks would be froze, and then I'd have to go and borrow the farm's one just to start up the JCB and get it moving. So I have a love-hate relationship with the tracks. It's not a fault of the JCB itself by any means. It's just with tracks, I mean, they are a lot more work to keep clean and maintain compared to tires. But on the other hand, I would have had several flat tires by this point, because after we took the barn down, even though we cleaned up as many nails as we could, I've pulled out 5 nails so far out of the tracks in this thing. So they definitely have their pros, that they also have their cons. For the Teleskid, as heavy as it is, like I've said before, definitely like that I have the tracked version of this unit, because for how heavy it is, I like that it spreads the weight out over the tracks instead of just on 4 points on wheels. So anyway, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I'll keep you guys updated as things continue. Things are going to be slowing down in January here, so probably only going to be posting about once a week, really just whenever I think we're doing something that's film worthy. So I'll keep you guys posted. We're going to be moving the cabs up from down at Travis's place. I need to get rid of this junk pile that's built up here. A lot of it's just the plastic wrap off the bales. It always builds up in the machine shed. It's better to put it inside where it can't get snowed on, so it doesn't freeze down and you can't get rid of it until spring that way. But this way I can just take it out and get rid of it when I need to. So that is pretty much it for this video. Now I'm going to be giving away a How Farms Work hat down in the comments section to one lucky person who gives me a good piece of advice for keeping your tracks cleaner in the winter, to keep them from freezing up. It's just like I've been talking about throughout this video. So if you're looking for tips, be sure to go down in the comment section. Like I said, I'll randomly pick one comment, well, whichever one I feel is a good one, and they'll win a How Farms Work hat. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to check out all of our other videos. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat, all How Farms Work. And with that, we'll see you next time.